the generation before, my generation, the generation before was, you come, correct. You come to the party, you leave all your negative stuff at the door, you come with good vibes, and that dictates how the party, how the energy will go for the rest of the night.
So today is Tuesday, January, I was going to say February, but January 5th, 2021. Who are we speaking with?
Hi, I'm Rhodesia Robledo. I represent my crew, Mawu, based out in New York City. We're an all-female house collective, and I'm born and raised in Connecticut, and house dancer, video editor, promoter, event organizer, based out of Connecticut.
Talk to me about house dance. What is house dance?
For me, or just, like a general
For you,
idea of what house dance is for the
for you,
public?
for you. Well, actually both. Let's do both.
Well, I mean, house dance is a pure expression of house music. Like, we are, you know, artists that, express to this music form through certain specific, movements and forms of expression. And it's mainly in house clubs. In the modern era, in the past 15 to 20 years, it's been highlighted in competition, huge competitions in battle formats. However, the root of the culture lies in New York City's underground dance club scene. And but yeah, for me, it's just a real pure way to express yourself to house music, which, I love. I'm a house head. I love house music. And, you know, I became a house dancer just purely because of how much, I loved the music. And that's always been what, at the root of what it's been for me, is like loving house music, following house music, you know. So for me, at the end of the day, house dance is a pure expression of your love of the music, in its simplest form.
How were you introduced to house dance?
Um, Going to parties, I saw people dancing this way to house, and it wasn't really necessarily about wanting to be like learning how to dance exactly how these people were dancing. It was more about, like I said before, getting more familiar with the music and understanding how to like ride grooves within the music. But I came up in a different era where we weren't so focused on, dancing the way everyone else was dancing. Individuality and, uniqueness was really, you know cherished, and you had to have that to be, anything. And when I say anything, I'm not talking about as a dancer. I mean, just in society and social circles, like individuality back in the 90s was like really important. And that also was a big contributing factor into a lot of the social dance styles, not just this style.
Sometimes in the clubs, there's some people who are dancing freely, and then there's some people who are battling. Is that a generational thing, or is that just what happens, evolves over time? Or well, give us the perspective of a dancer in terms of at least what I've seen, pre-COVID, like like sometimes it's a circle and it seems to be like a little bit of a battling going on, and then sometimes they're just people just like, I don't really want to do the circle. I'm just going to be by the speaker, like freestyling. Talk to us
Yeah.
about the dichotomy there.
Well, I think, that sort of thing that happens between, just being a normal club goer versus someone who goes to the club to cipher versus the dancer who just wants to express themselves and just lose themselves, while they're in this space. I think it's all about intent, like individual intent, like why you came out, like why you want to express yourself on that level on that day. Um, I think it just boils down to, I really do. I think it just boils down to individual intent. Because there's a lot of people that go to these events to cipher. There's people that go to just express themselves. And I've been in all these situations where, I was just a normal club goer, and then I just wanted to express myself. And then there was times I just wanted to decipher all night. So I just think that, everyone has a different intent. Or, the intent changes, a certain track could come on and it gets everyone really hype, and it gets you to the point where, you just want to like, you know, cipher with other people. A lot of that is energy too. You have to understand the energy that's happening in that cipher, and to be able to like hold a movement conversation, because that's what these ciphers are. They're conversations and movement. And it's up to us as dancers to be able to have that vocabulary to have a conversation with the next person. So you're bringing the conversation to a certain level, and then the next dancer rebuttals with what they have to say, and then the next person. So you keep building, it keeps building. This is what ciphers do. And so i think I think for me, the biggest difference that we can talk about is the type of ciphers, where you have that kind of energy where it's building up and it's like a friendly, inviting energy, as long as the participants understand what to contribute to it, versus the ciphers where it's like combative and a more like one-upping kind of energy, where you're trying to like put people down. I would say in the house clubs that the time that I came up in, and I'm not saying I haven't seen the negative one, I have. It's just less likely in the house community that I'm a part of in New York City. I've seen it. Like I said, it's just less likely. It's more likely a positive and welcoming, open, energy building experience. So there's always those people that are going to be negative. There's always those people that have that, they're trying to like outdo the other person. They're trying to like put the other person down, or they're trying to, and I think that, after a certain point, people tend to find you can't keep that going. It's not sustainable. You can't keep it going for too long. And it just kind of like, it's like a flame, it dies out, and then you start again, you start building again, the energy has to be built up again. So it just depends, it just depends on what happens. It's all very spontaneous, and really matters about the people that are there. And that's why, one of the big unspoken, I speak about unspoken rules a lot, and how this generation has gotten away from the unspoken rules, and we need to kind of like get back to that. So one of the unspoken rules from like, the generation before, my generation, the generation before, was, you come, correct. You come to the party, you leave all your negative stuff at the door, you come with good vibes, and that dictates how the energy will go for the rest of the night. So if you have those one or two people that come in with a certain kind of intent, with a certain kind of energy, it's going to affect certain things in the party, like little pockets of energy, So these are these unspoken rules that we have to kind of get back to.
For the newbies, what is a cipher?
It's just a circle like that spontaneously forms, with dancers getting busy, and or a dance circle. We like to call them ciphers. A good one forms, like I was saying, it's based off of like positive energy, uplifting, kind of intent. And the space is usually given with respect from the crowd in those situations. And I've also seen many times where the space is taken, and it's different. It's more of a negative energy to it behind it. So, you know, it's up to you, you know what I mean? How you want to, like, you know, form your cipher. But a lot of times if you see that you're having to like force it or you're having to keep it going, the negative, I mean, the energy behind it is probably going to be more negative. Um, but again, you have to, like, you know, you have to live these experiences. They're meant to be experienced. You know, you're not gonna live them if you're just in classes all day. You're just doing stuff online. So, you know, once we get back to some sort of normalcy, we can get our young people back to like living experiences. You know, and that's the most important thing.
Open question. What is your intention when you dance?
My intent every time is about pure heartfelt expression. I'm a very emotional person. I feel everything very deeply. It's a lot of it's a big reason why I do like everything in my life, because I can't seem to get away from certain emotions or certain energies. So dance was always an outlet, a release, a way for me to, you know, speak to my, you know, ancestors, a way for me to like elevate. But it was very organic for me. It wasn't something that someone taught me or showed me. I was in the right place at the right time, and I saw, like, you know, energy and spirits being conjured, but didn't even have the words to explain it, like I just said, like what I just said about conjuring spirits. I didn't know that that was happening. I could just feel what was happening, and I just wanted to be a part of it and just kind of hone that energy just over time. You know, and just try to express the way that was the most heartfelt and most you know, productive for my life, and felt the most organic and most real to me, and this is basically guided me through my entire life. So but yeah, so definitely heartfelt expression and being as genuine as possible with my expression.
What are the unspoken rules of house dance?
I think that a lot of these rules are similar to hip hop, like what kind of falls under the category of, like, you know, hip hop culture, hip hop dance, you know, club styles, you know, club culture, all that stuff. Um, I mean, number one, like this is kind of like under like clubbing or whatever. It's like don't bring your drink on the dance floor. You know, come with good energy, come with good vibes. You know, don't ever force it. You know, allow things to happen in an organic, natural way. Um, Too much baby powder on the floor, or you know what I mean? Like it's okay to have some baby powder on the floor, but like there's also like too much. Um, Not interrupting someone when they're in their vibe, you know, when they're really lost in energy or, you know, in their spirit, and then you go up to them, you're like, hi, I just want to say hi. And it's like, you know, you could save the high for later. You could just, you know, just wait until a little later, you know. So that's another big one. Not faking your feelings, like coming with a genuine like emotion, you know. And you know, and that also applies to the cipher. Like don't get into a cipher with bullshit. You know what I mean? Come when it's genuine, and when it's authentic, and when you can actually match the energy. If you don't have the emotional understanding or capacity to understand what's happening right here between this group of dancers and how they're interacting with each other, and you can't complement that emotion, then you need to like to stay back up, so there's a lot of things that are not explained to people. They're silent, they're unspoken, they're unwritten, but they're more of word of mouth. And I think that we're even slipping further away from, I mean, because they are spoken and they're starting to become unspoken as well. They're unwritten, so and there's more. Those are the things I could just think off the top of my head. Ejo has his whole, like, he has a list called like Ejo's house rules, and they're basically unwritten like cultural rules, that sometimes people have to learn these rules like the hard way, and unfortunately, but that's usually how it like happens when people have to, like, something happens and then they get confronted in a negative way because they're not being attentive to what's happening, so.
Which dancers, if any, have inspired you?
That's hard because so many have inspired me in so many ways.
And it doesn't have to be just house dancers either.
Well, because I tend to, like, I came up in the community and I learned by all the club goers and all the OGs. And there's so many, that everyone has a lesson. Everyone has a little something that they can teach you, that you can learn from, whether it's, how you express yourself, or how you're talking to someone, or, whatever it may be, how to do a turn, or a lot of it is about energy and understanding how to interact with energy. And, I feel like that's very nuanced and hard for people to understand because it's something you can't really put your finger on it. It's about understanding like energy, and it just takes time. It takes patience and a lot of time and experience. So, and self-knowledge, like knowing yourself really well, also helps to understand and interpret energy. So I think that I wouldn't say necessarily names, but I would say one of the things that I learned from a whole generation of like OG club heads, was, they all had different lessons, and, the energy component, just about understanding like how to learn how to share and exchange energy, in a good positive way, you know, in our way. So I can say like, people like polite, and I mean there's a lot of people that I can list, Ahim.
You froze for a second. You said people like, and then it just cut off. One more time.
Oh,
Okay.
few names. I said people like Ejo, Kahim, say Ku, Serge, Ceres, he's a DJ. Just a lot. There's so many people. It's hard to like sit here and start naming names because like I am inspired by so many people. So, but I would say there's the older generation, they have wisdom and knowledge, and they have a sophistication and maturity with their expression that it's not so much about it being like the best or like the worst. It's about how you express yourself, your emotional intelligence, like being able to like understand what the other person you're dancing with, what that person actually needs, not what you're just trying to force on them. So all these things are important.
How do you manage if, say, you're in a zone and dancing and somebody wants to couple dance with you? How do you manage that?
That is purely based on, like, if I don't, well, number one, if I don't want to dance with anyone at that moment, I just won't. So that's number one. Number two, I'll just be like, sorry, I'm, maybe the next dance. I will just tell them, maybe the next dance, or, can I find you in a few minutes? Because I actually enjoy dancing with people. And there's plenty of times where I'm not in the mood at that moment. And I'll just say, can I catch up with you in the next dance? And they understand. if it's someone that I just don't want to dance with, and I'm probably never gonna want to dance with them, um, you know, I just say like, you know, just give them, you know, a reason why I can't dance. You know, I'll just say like, you know, I'll say what I was saying before, like, you know, I'm trying to dance here, or you know, maybe another time or something like that. I just try to be nice about it. You know, that's it. Just try to be nice, you know, but sometimes you can't be nice because some people don't know how to take no, but you know, you have to, you just can't dance with everyone all the time, you know? So, you know, I try, but you know, you do your best.
Some of us view the club as a safe haven for dance and music. Others see it as a pickup zone. Um, as a female house dancer, how do you navigate that when you're dancing? And have you ever encountered that where people are trying to holler at you while you're dancing or because you're a dancer? And then how do you deal with that?
Well, in New York City, the parties that we go to that we are specifically following DJs, they are organizing and you know, creating their events to a specific audience, which I am, or a community, which I'm a part of. So, so most of the parties that I go to in New York City, I'm a part of a larger community, and everyone knows how to conduct themselves. So when that does happen, it's really rare, like very unlikely that it happens, but it does happen once in a blue moon. And it's usually when there's a party that is either on a holiday, when like everyone is just out and you just have random people just coming in to any party, or this party is in collaboration with another party and you have both of their you know, communities or their scenes, groups of people that follow those parties. They're kind of like all in the same space, you know, and they are, you know, you have one community, a group of people that are, you know, conduct themselves a certain kind of way, which you know we do, and then you have another group of people that are, you know, I don't know, like they just don't conduct themselves the way that we conduct ourselves. So that's kind of like the only time that something like that happens. But because in New York City, we really do have like a pretty extensive scene, and the parties that we have are really catered just for like our community. And I'm not saying other people can't come, they can, but you know, these are when you start going to like parties for our community, people start learning the unwritten rules, like, you know, like how to interact with women, or you know, it's fine to try to like hook up with someone, but you know, like you have to learn like how, and you just know who's who, you know how to behave yourself, you know, so it just takes a little time.
Do you have a particular memory where you were dancing and you were like, this is why I do it? This is exactly why I do it.
Anything specific? I mean, yes, a lot of
Like a particular party or DJ that comes to mind, like the first couple that come to mind.
that's happened a lot, honestly. I can't really it's like, so I mean, I can think of like, you know, Soul Summit Party, or it's like, you know, 10:45 in the morning at Shelter, and you know, the party is just like crazy, you know, or like the Shelter anniversary party where it's like two floors, and there's like a cipher that's like a massive cipher where you have b-boys, and you just in it, you just present, just um and then I also can say that the club and being a part of this community has been there for me on an array of emotions in my life. So even when things have been bad and I have been completely emotionally distraught, my saving grace is to make it out to the club, and you know, lo and behold, when I'm on the dance floor, you know, in tears, you know, but I know I know I have that plate, I have that, and I have the space for that, you know, and the community is there for me when I need that. So I think that's really special. So it's like the highest of the highs and then the lowest of the lows, you know, they're there for you because again, it's a vessel about pure self-expression. And if you allow yourself to express yourself through the highs and the lows, you can actually like capitalize creatively, you know, creatively through your movement and through your expression because you're allowing your emotions to just come out. So
Talk to us about the first house party you went to.
like club in New York City or like house party?
Both. Both.
Well, I can't really think of the first like house party I went to because I went to so many parties. But I would think I would speak on more of the first New York City house club I went to, which was Shelter. And I spoke on this in this other interview. It was 1996, it was like November of 96, so almost 1997. And Little Louis and La India were performing at Club Shelter when it was on Barrack Street, and it was just massive. They had you walk in, and then they had like the main dance floor when you first walk in. It's kind of like a thin narrow hallway, and then it opens up to where people will sell, you know, products and jewelry and things, and then the main dance floor, a few steps, and then they had like a lounge area where they would have snacks and stuff to the right, and then they had another lounge behind the DJ booth with a little bar, juice bar, and that place was it was just a hub for creative, you know, energy and people back then, you know, and it was, you know, artists and creative people of all walks of life. It wasn't just, you know, like now I feel like people just, you know, identify themselves like, oh, well, you belong in this space if you like house music or if you're a house dancer. It was never supposed to be like that. It was never like that. You know, it was always about just, you know, loving house music, which means it gravitated towards all types of people. You know what I mean? It was all types of, you know, people who were into the arts and, you know, and dancing and, you know, people who are DJs and producers and, you know, so we still have some of that, but I feel like, you know, now it's just people who are kind of already know what's up are there and that's it. We're not like getting more like new people, where I feel like that's the biggest difference. Where back then, dance music and, you know, finding new things and new ways to express yourself to music in general was a cool and exciting thing. I feel like now, if you don't know the music, if you don't know the artist, if you don't know what's on the radio, then people don't want to be bothered with it. There was something like really exciting about like being put on to new things that weren't just on the radio. And I feel like we've gotten so far from that. But this is what Club Shelter represented, and this was the first. This is my first New York City club experience, and it changed the path and the trajectory of my life. And I just completely have been on that, you know. And I mean, I'm not going to say that it's it's been easy, but you know, it's what I love, and that's just, you know, that's just what I did. It wasn't a thought. It was just, you know, what I'm going to do. It's definitely hasn't been not everyone in my life I can say has understood it. So that's when I say when it hasn't been easy, because there's other people that just don't, they think that clubbing or going out is just about, you know, getting drunk or wasted or meeting guys, and it's just not about that for me, and it's not about that for most of the people in the community that I'm a part of. So it's kind of hard for everyone to get a full comprehension or understanding of what the community is really about, you know.
What is Club Shelter for a newbie?
Club Shelter for a newbie, in their eyes, they walk into it, and I feel like they think it's kind of like a retro thing. That's what I think that they think. I think that they think it's kind of like what 718 is, and it's not. 718 is kind of like a retro party. Like you go to 718. I mean, I love 718, you know, it's not trying to diss it or anything. It just is what it is, you know? And Shelter has always been on the cutting edge of music, mixing, DJs, and like you want to bring out the latest house tracks. If you go to a Shelter party, you're gonna hear it, and the latest like ways of like mixing, blending, layering, as far as DJs, which means, as you can see, like I spoke about the music and the social elements first, and then the dancers. You know what I mean? Not the dancing first, because dancers follow the DJs. So when I say Shelter's on the cutting edge of these things, you know, these are things that the DJs do, you know, it's because we want to hear the best, we want to hear the best DJs, we want to hear the best music, we want to hear the best mixing and blending and layering, you know, which means hence we end up at Club Shelter. And Shelter had the best hours. Shelter would, back in the day anyway, not so much when there's no parties now, but classic Shelter parties would start at like midnight and go to like 12 p.m. It would be like, it was a 12-hour party, and you pay $20, but you can show up at any time during the night that you want. And then, you know, you can go in and out, you can have a snack, you can, you know, go outside and roll a blunt and smoke and have a drink and then come back in and then eat. And it was just awesome, you know? So it represented a lot of things, you know, that other parties just, you know, I'm not saying that, you know, there isn't other good parties. There are, you know, really, really great, wonderful parties. But this party, this you know, represented certain things that it was all under one roof. You know what I mean? Like you had some of the best DJs with the best mixing, the best layering, which brought out the best dancers and in the best venues that went for the best hours. You know what I mean? And that you can show up at anywhere between midnight to 12 p.m. the next afternoon. And then you can, when you get there, you can actually like go outside, get breakfast, take a snack, have a smoke, have a drink, come back, dance for 4 more hours, and then leave. You know what I mean? It was worth $20. So there will be great parties. They will have like, you know, some of those elements, but it won't have all of those elements. And I'm sure there's other really wonderful qualities that I'm missing right now, but those are the draws. Like we went there to hear the best music with the best floors. I mean, the venues, they were always really meticulous about the space that they had because they knew they were catering to a dancing crowd. Wood floors. I would say there was only like maybe one venue where they had a cement floor at a shelter, like at a Shelter venue. All the other wood floors. Back in the day, they used to have every weekend, it was a theme. Like you come in, the whole place was decorated, balloons, themes, you know, food in the other room, snacks, you know, so you're paying $20, but you're getting food, you're getting a theme, you're getting snacks, you can go in and out. So these are things that, you know, we look for, you know, so.
Describe that night with La India and Louis Vega.
Oh my God. Well, it was, when I first walked in, it just completely like something just set ablaze inside of me. And it was just like, it was like someone lit my fuse, you know, and I'm still like running on it. You know what I mean? The whole place was like bouncing. So you know, when young people come to New York and they see our community, they see a lot of OGs, a lot of elders. And I try to tell people, think of this same group of people, this huge crowd of people, but like 20, 25 years younger, you know? And that's what Shelter was. You walk into the party and they were all young and vibrant, and the whole crowd was jacking. The whole crowd was bouncing, the whole crowd. Everyone was dancing. The whole party moved as a unit, you know, and understood the energy that they were exuding into the ethosphere, you know? And so that was life altering for me. You know what I mean? Feeling that as soon as I walked in, it was like, you know, it was kinetic, you know. There was just like, and then there was huge cipher going on, and it was, and back then you didn't know people's names. You just didn't, because I mean, people that were in their same borough, they did, but it was more like you danced. People knew and identified where you were from by the way you danced. You know what I mean? So like New York had Manhattan had a style. You know what I mean? Not all of New York, like Manhattan had its style. And if you lived in this area, like if you lived in the LES, you know, it was a certain thing, or you lived in the Washington Heights, it was a certain thing, or the Bronx had a style and Brooklyn had a style, and you know, and it depends on who they were like hanging out with and who they were, you know, influencing each other and listening to. So, you know, Jersey had a style, you know, being from Connecticut, we had like, you know, our little style. And so you had a lot of like, it was a local thing back then. And then I would say in the early, like, you know, maybe 1999 2000, it started becoming really international really fast. But walking in that night, you could feel that it was like the tri-state area. You could feel it. It was very local, you know, very New York. It was very Jersey. You know, people were Bridge and Tunnel. People coming from Connecticut, you know, from PA. You know, so the energy was just like radiant. It was just like exploding out of there, and the music was good, and then the performance with Little Louie and La India. They had a full they had a full orchestra on stage. They had a full band, you know, and they had balloons, and then, you know, everyone was rushing the stage, and you know, there were ciphers going on. As soon as that was over, everyone rushed the stage, and now there was a cipher on the stage, and so there was a cipher on the main floor. Now there was food in the other room, and the party just went on for another like 4 or 5 hours after the performance. So it was life changing, you know, and just I felt like I found where I was supposed to be, you know, and it felt like I remember feeling like finally I found it. But looking back now, I was so young, you know, it's crazy. So
Describe your house dance style.
describe my style. Oh gosh. uh I want to say it's like I really focus on jacking a lot, you know, and I can get really into footwork and stuff, but I really try to hone as much of the old school club things, elements in the dance as much as possible. There's little things that are very club that I really try to focus on, and those things are not taught in classes. They're just not. And so I would say it's kind of like a mix of like, you know, holding on to the old, but also like, you know, always adding in new. You know what I mean? So I'm never forgetting about. I think sometimes when people learn new things, they've kind of put other things to bed. They put them down and they like put them to bed, you know? And I don't really do that. It's like stuff that was old, I still deem it worthy. Like it's still available to me. If that makes sense? So I'm kind of like always cultivating new things that work with the old things. Like the old stuff I'm never really done with it, if that makes sense.
What is body and soul?
Well, Body and Soul was a party that started after Shelter, the same venue on Hubert Street. As far as I know, I think it started there. I could be wrong. Shelter would end at like 10 or 12 in the afternoon, 10 a.m. or 12 p.m. And then it was shut down until like 6. And then Body and Soul would start. And this was every Saturday and Sunday. And we would call it our dance marathon or church, all that stuff. And, you know, it was, Body and Soul was specifically more catered to the gay community. It's not like it really mattered. It was excellent house music and excellent music in the same venue. But they definitely did have a certain demographic. Amazing party, amazing music. And yeah, it's just a good time. I mean, I have wonderful memories of Body and Soul. Yeah.
Is there a particular night or performance that stood out?
I have some nights in my mind, but they were just like normal nights. It's not like my first time at Shelter where I have like, there was a big performance and, like I don't, Body and Soul was just kind of like, oh yeah, and then there's Body and Soul. We're gonna stick around to Body, you know what I mean? So it was like something we just kind of did. But not specifically, no. But
So
wonderful
talk,
party, also another great, legendary party. Yeah.
so talk to us about clubbing in that era. So you would come to Shelter on a Saturday night, dance all night until the morning, and then stay for Body and Soul?
I would sometimes, not all the time, but I did do that sometimes. Yeah. We would either sleep in our car, because I come from Connecticut. So we would drive like an hour and 45 minutes, depending on traffic, it would be pushing 2 hours and then be up all night. You also have to remember, like, we could sleep. There wasn't nearly as much stigma about falling asleep in the club then as there is now. And I'm starting to realize, well, a few years ago, I started to realize that because there isn't as much after hours as there were, because all the best house parties were after hours. So you would see people sleeping in the club all the time. It was just normal, it would be like 5, 6 in the morning. You need a damn nap, like, and then you wake up and you'll dance like for a few more hours and then go home because you're just not really ready to go home yet. So yeah, you would have people that would, like us that were coming, from out of state, and, you would either go to the park, rest, get lunch, get some food, chill in your car, chill in the park, or, I would say the most of what I did was I had my family's from New York. So my mom moved out to Connecticut to raise us, but we're like New Yorkers, I would probably stay with like my cousin, or I probably did that the most. I would like go stay with my cousin, sleep for a few hours, and then just throw something on and then just go right back to like Body and Soul, But if I were by myself or was one other person, I would do that. But if I were with friends, of course I can't just crash at a friend's house or my cousin's house. So that's when we would be like, we have to chill in the car, or we have to like chill in the park or something. But otherwise, if not, we just go back home, drive back after the Shelter party, because I mean, that's a really good, like, hours of dancing, so either which way you're good.
What is Clubbing Forever?
Clubbing Forever is an event that John and Netta and a few others came up with for their latest category for some summer. No, not just for the summer, but just for summer dance, for Dance Forever, for the winter version and the summer version. So it's a category where they basically have a party, and in the party they have secret judges, and then periodically through the party, maybe like once every hour and a half or so, they have a spotlight cipher that pops up, and you dance in the party, you dance in the cipher, and no one knows who the judges are, and so you just rep on as much as you can. And I just think that they're looking for, it's not necessarily so much about people being the best. I think that people really don't, there's a really deep misunderstanding about this. I think that people think that like, oh, well, you're not the best, or, I'm better than you, or, technically I'm a better dancer. When it comes to clubbing, it's about expression, It's about like, you know, energy, exchanging energy, understanding how to, you know, deal with energy and to transmit energy and to like conjure energy, like just all these things, like just understanding how to manage energy. And people just it just goes right over their head. And yeah, they could be doing those damn steps or whatever they're doing perfectly, but they're like there's no energy or feeling or emotion behind it. Where clubbing is not, it's, you could be not as good as the next person, but you could be loved by the crowd because your energy is just like radiating. So I think that people just really have to understand the whole energy component. There's a fundamental misunderstanding, and it's because of people's lack of life experience in the club. I think a lot of people are just learning in the classroom setting, and there's a lot of holes of understanding because they're not getting the full, it's out of context. Basically, it's just out of context. They're not understanding the whole thing, the whole picture. They're just learning steps. But when I was like in the club with like, you know, like crazy energy all around me, and with like, you know, emotion, and like everything was in context, you know. And I think that we're just kind of like getting so far away from that. So people had some I think there was some misunderstandings as far as like, you know, why they chose me. Not a lot. I think it was just like a few people. But and I think that people were just looking at what was happening in the ciphers, and they weren't understanding that it wasn't just based on how hard you repped in the ciphers. It was about the whole experience, the whole party. I literally danced from the moment I walked in there until like I took a break for dinner, like went outside, got food, took a break, and then came back and then started dancing all the way to like they announced the winner. I danced the entire time, and it wasn't because I was trying to win. I actually forgot there was a contest. I forgot that there was a contest going on. But that's why I won, was because it was just like, that's just what I do, you know? So it was just about expressing yourself. And I think that people just need to get closer or right back to, you know, being able to express yourself in an organic, natural, genuine way, you know, and how to manage energy. So I think, like I said, I just think that, you know, there's just a fundamental misunderstanding as far as like, you know, where the energy management factors into dance. People just really just don't fully understand it.
What is the connection for you between house dance or house music and roller skating?
I was waiting for the skating stuff to come in. Uh, it's not necessarily about house dance. It's just about, it's the energy component that is similar. You know what I mean? It's not, you know, and I mean you can the bounce, like what you do with your jack and all that stuff, of course. I mean, but you can translate that into like hip hop dance as well, because hip hop is also has jacking in it big time. Um, I mean, skating is just, you know, for me, I would say as a young person coming up, you know, growing up in the 80s and 90s, because I'm a 70s baby, it was your first nightlife social experience in life.
Do you
You know,
remember do you remember the
we,
first rink you went to?
yeah, I grew up going to a rink in Groton, Connecticut, because I grew up in New London, Connecticut. And the rink was called Roll on America. And we used to go like every weekend, like every single weekend we were there. And that's just what you did. Like you just weren't cool if you didn't go skating. You know, that's just what, you know, parents would just drop their kids off. And they weren't really parents in the, like now, because I still go skating at, you know, on a general admission night or family night. I still do that. And their parents are right in the rink with the kids. They didn't do that back then. They just dropped their kids off. And we were just out in there living our best lives, you know? And it's really weird now because it's like you want the kids to be supervised, but at the same time, you kind of need kids to be able to learn how to be social on their own, you know? It's like you kind of have to find a balance, you know? But it was our first experience as young people in a nightlife setting, you know, social without supervision, parents, rules, you know, you kind of had to like, you know, you're dancing, there's music, you had to figure these things out on your own, you know, as a young person, you know, and a lot of times, you know, I had a lot of siblings. So, but as I got older, when I was in high school, you have to find your, you know, your own ride there. You got to find your own ride back. You have to like, you know, we didn't have cell phones, didn't exist. So, you know, all these other things that you have to manage your life as a young person. And, you know, and then you're hearing all the latest music, you're learning how to dance and skate, you're, you know, being social. It was just like it was just a weekly social hub that you could not wait to do every week. It was a thing. So as a young person, um, it was important, and it was important when you didn't even realize it was. And that's the other thing. Like you just don't even realize it is, and it is.
What advice would you give to the next generation of house dancers?
I would just tell them to stop thinking so much and just have fun and just to feel the person they're dancing with, to feel the track, to feel the song, and like let it like get inside their bodies and interpret that, allow the emotion to dictate what how your movement, and you're going to express yourself through the movement. I feel like there's way too much forced movement, like everyone's trying to do these steps. I gotta learn this and then this and then I could do this and then, you know, and then it's just kind of like a lot of these super complicated steps. I don't even do them. I really stick to very basic foundation stuff, you know? And it's just because I understand how to express myself. You know, I allow my the emotion is gonna tell more of a story than the step will, because you're doing the step with emotion. But if you just did the step without the emotion, it's just not as much behind it, you know. I just think people just need to just get back to expressing themselves, doing more with less, you know, rather than more with more. Does that make sense? It's kind of like, you know, I tell there's some students that I'm working with one on one, and you know, taking a bunch of classes and still doesn't feel like, you know, they are where they want to be. And you know, when I work with them, I'm like telling them like, you know, I'm not going to give you like more steps. I'm just going to work with the ones you have because it's already a lot. Like I don't need to. The problem isn't the steps. It's about knowing what to do with the steps. You know what I mean? And so this is kind of like, you know, like in understanding how to like manipulate your jack with that step, because if you understand how to change your jack up and switch your jack up, you can, that one step can turn into 10 steps, you know, because you're switching up the groove and how your application of the jack in that step. So we're just trying to make them think. I'm trying to make them think in different ways and getting them to understand that, you know, it's also about the energy you put and the emotion you put behind what you do. No step is just flat. No step is just a step. It has something behind it, and it's up to you to dictate what that is. So people just have to like just get back to like doing more with less, you know, and understanding that they can build. These are just seeds. These like this step wasn't supposed to just be the step and that's it. This step was supposed to like be a seed to other things. So this is kind of like, you know, we just have to get back to that, you know, that thinking.
What is the future of house dance?
The future of house dance is music. The future of house dance is the music. I mean, that's I think that people, I'm just gonna go right back to it. People just focus on the music, you know, the dance, it's just naturally gonna happen, you know? So I just find that so many dancers just are not focused on the music. They're just like, you know, everything I've already just said. I'm not gonna repeat myself again. You know, I just feel like in so many different ways, it's just the same story, you know, so.
What is Mawu?
Well, Mawu is an all-female collective based out of New York City. We are all rooted in all different dance styles and have backgrounds in all different dance styles. But what makes up us a collective is the club scene, club culture, house dance. So this is what unites us. This is what connects us, and this is what we represent. We represent club culture. We represent, you know, everything, all levels of club culture, also house dance. So I always want to make people understand that it's not just house dance we represent club culture. So it's a lot deeper. And that goes into like, also creating events, you know, having platforms, doing workshops, like all as much as we can. And, we don't do as much as we would like, but we do keep it going with small projects. And individually, we do a lot. We do a lot. But, it's again, it's not just about the dance. It's, if you represent club culture, you represent all the foundations that support the dance as well, not just the dance. Because if you just support the dance, it's shallow. You know what I mean? So we represent everything, the foundation, the house, everything around the dance as well.
What's next, for Rho?
What's next for me? I'm really focusing on what I'm building here in the state of Connecticut. Doing a lot of last summer, well, the summer of 2020, the spring of 2020 and summer of 2020, saw an opportunity to do more events in Connecticut that were safe for people. And so I was doing park parties where people can come outside and hear live house sets from real house DJs that they would normally never get the opportunity to hear, because you would again have to be a part of this community to know about it, and just someone would have to tell you about it, otherwise you're not going to know. So doing these events was also a part of like outreaching to the community to help build the culture. And building the culture is just getting the music into people's ears. It's that simple. Again, if people hear good house music, good dance music, they're gonna want to hear it more. They're gonna want to dance. They're gonna, everything just grows once they hear the music. So keeping it simple, keeping it safe, and trying to get our young people to get the opportunity to hear this music. We can't hold it for ourselves anymore any longer. It needs to be for everybody.
And then for the young people that are just getting into house dance, are there any parties or events you recommend they attend? I mean, I know this is COVID, so imagine there was no COVID. Are there any particular events or parties you say like, oh, if you really want to let loose, you got to go to where?
Well, I would say 20 somethings. I would think house dance specifically in New York City. I would say the Funk Box party would be probably the best party for young up and coming dancers, because you get a little bit of everything. You get to see a good house party. You get to see some good ciphers. You're gonna see at least two good DJs, depending on the night. And you just get to see the community out in force and interacting with each other, and you really feel the family community vibe, which is important for young people. And you can feel that right away at a funk box party. You can feel that, and I think that's important. um I would say, of course, I'm going to say the shelter party. It was a really good party. A good retro party where they play a lot of disco, and, they mix it up with like, all types of house from, generationally. But 718 sessions was good for that. What else? Um, Bang the Drum. They were having good parties. The Cricket Club, they were having great parties out in Jersey, but that's New Jersey. Really great venue though. The Cricket Club was nice, and they just had really wonderful wood floors, which is, you know. Right, I feel so rusty in my mind. I can't even remember. I can't even remember. Like, it's been like almost a year. It's crazy, but yeah. I mean, like, are you Afro? There's so many other parties, you know. But we'll see what happens when we come back, and you know what parties will stick around and what parties won't. And it's kind of sad to see what's gonna happen, but my fingers are crossed, and I am really hoping for the best for our community. I'm hoping for the best. So we'll see.
How are you getting your house fixed with everything closed because of COVID?
I've been in Connecticut. We still can do parties and we can still do events. So we're doing like skate events, and I've just been like living on skate events right now. Like, we have a monthly, not a monthly, I'm sorry, a weekly Monday adult skate session. It's only 2.5 hours, and I like right now I'm living for that. I have I'm organizing a skate event on MLK weekends on Sunday, January 17th. It's going to be Winter Soul Roll at Roller Magic in Waterbury, and you know, just doing skate events right now. Other than that, I'll go to the aerobic room in the gym where I can just like close the area, the room off to myself, and I'll just like practice for a few hours, an hour and a half to 2 hours. I'll dance. I tend to dance at home by myself. I'll just blast music, put music on. A lot of DJs have been, you know, spinning live sets on Zoom or, you know, IG Live or Facebook, and, you know, I'll tune in, I'll listen to their set. And if I don't hear it live, I'll maybe, you know, hear it the next day at work or whatever. But, you know, I've just been doing that. That's all I can do, you know, so.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for a great interview.
All right. You have a good one.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.